Welcome, folks. It's Fluffenbusters time again. As ever, I am Mr. D, joined by Mr. White.
I knew you'd say that.
Whilst Mr. White gets his thoughts in order, I thought I'd just do a little bit of a spiel for anyone who's fresh to our shows. People who've listened for a while, thank you. Grab yourself some refreshments whilst we're getting people up to speed. But for newcomers, you might be asking, what is Fluffenbusters? Quite simply, it is a show where Mr. White and myself
Hello.
natter about on, over, around a film that has some relation to the worlds of Warhammer. It could be
Tiny.
tenuous,
Yeah.
it could be quite overt, it could just be a film that touches us somewhere deep in the gnarled recesses of what we classify as our hearts.
I wondered where you were going there.
But this is all about having a bit of fun. It's not a reaction. Most of these films we'll have watched multiple times over the years because we're both big, giant film nerds.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Adam has experience in the filmmaking industry, so he has some very good insights into how the sausage is made that he brings to the channel and the show. Myself, I'm just a massive nerd about far too many things, so I can talk about most subjects at a fair old whack for as long as you'll let me. As anyone who's listened to the Fluff and Hammer channel for the last couple of years has come to realise. So that's the gist of things. We hope you enjoyed this show.
Yeah.
Today we're going to be tackling Dredd.
A film that has relevance. My goodness. I've lost the ability to talk, folks. That'll bode well for the next 2 hours. But it has a lot of relevance because not only do we see a lot of very strong takes in 40K that have followed a Judge Dredd template. Not only is it a film that is essentially very, very British a lot of its time, and yet it's being reinterpreted by different people, but also, as we're recording this, we've had the news that Taika is, at the moment, working with a writer on trying to bring a new version of Dredd to the screen, which for some people fills them with horror, others with joy. So I'm sure that we will cover that at some point as well.
Yeah.
That said, folks, we are, although both of us having grown up with a leaning towards fantasy and, the comics and that kind of media, we have read 2000 AD. I don't know. I wouldn't consider myself a super huge fan of the lore and everything involved. D, I don't know about you.
I did buy 2080 quite regularly for the best part of 2 decades, from the late 90s through to about 2017, in fairness.
Oh,
And
we're going to be leaning on you a lot.
yeah, and I do own. I did buy into that Judge Dredd mega collection that Hachette did a
Oh,
few years back.
fantastic.
So
Fantastic.
I'll admit I was a bit of a late comer to the world of 2000 AD. I'd read it from time to time over years, but it was only really like the mid to late 90s when I really started to get into it, because ironically, I came to 2000 AD probably during one of its lowest periods overall.
Really?
Yeah, the mid to late 90s is not. It's weird. It's both the time that spawned some more famous characters like Nikolai Dante and Sinister Dexter,
Yep.
but it's also the era that spawned some infamous flops like Space Girls,
Yes.
and the really infamous Sex Special, which were.
We'll probably
Not-
talk about during this because there's nothing like
yeah,
Carl Evan blowing somebody's head off whilst we talk about sex girls.
yeah. But 2000 AD, the thing is, it's the anthology format. No anthology magazine is ever going to be a 100% hit rate. 2000 AD is a bit of an outlier in that they've managed over the decades a pretty good rate of hits to misses, in all fairness.
And they have, along the lines as well, it's not just Dredd as well. They've
Mm,
created a series of characters which tap into various elements of the British psyche,
absolutely.
bits from our history, things that unfortunately are far too relevant today. But
Mm,
also as well, they do have a couple of what you would call classic characters. And although this version of Dredd is a little bit more standalone, I'm sure we'll be talking about some of these other characters as we go along.
absolutely. So
Now,
we've
before
probably.
we start,
Oh,
I do need to make and I apologize to you as well at this point, D, as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just want you to imagine, if you will, where I'm recording. Imagine my professional setup. Imagine the monitors in front of me. The microphone on that funky little stick thing that you see everyone in YouTube speaking into. I must look the most professional person in the world as I'm doing this. Now imagine that I'm half buried under a clothes horse and other random pieces of stuff that I've had to put against the windows to try and block the noise. And if you're wondering, well, Adam, surely you wouldn't record next to a window if you were doing a podcast. What on earth could be causing so much noise? If I told you that 200 meters down the road from me, on the pavement, two artists were performing trapeze on a mobile trapeze rig, backed by music so loud that it is filling the road with sound, so much so that I realized that they've just started their fifth cycle of this particular set of music, and that in
Christ.
about 25 minutes I'm going to hear Johnny Cash singing Hurt whilst they do a trapeze act for some ungodly reason. Now you'll know. So to
Blimey.
apologize to everyone if there is additional noise coming into the background here. That is why there's literally nothing I can do about it. But I'll tell you what, in terms of random, crazy, weird shit to go on whilst we're recording something about Judge Dredd and Mega City 1, portable trapeze artists playing industrial covers by country artists is probably one of the most least surprising things to happen.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of on brand for the world of the Big Meg.
Exactly.
So, but I'm sure we'll be fine.
Go.
Yeah. On which note, let's get this rolling. So, and a one and a
Oh,
two.
and
Oh,
we're
yes.
starting from now again because Dread is so popular, it's shown across a lot of platforms. Now, if you're listening on YouTube or watching YouTube, of course, we can't just start playing the film here because that would get us into all sorts of trouble. So I've got a still version of the film along with a time code so you can always keep up with wherever we are during the film. But as for actually starting it, we're going to start the film from just after the DNA logo starts. Finishes. So as soon as that DNA logo pops up on the screen, it then goes to black, and then straight away the film credits come up. That's where we're going from, folks. Okay? Cool. Over to you, D. Sorry about that.
Okay. No, that's fine. So, on a one and a two and a play. There we go. Reliance Entertainment.
There's the sound of, I swear, it's like a gong being strangled
Mm.
coming down the road. It's either an effect or one of the trapeze artists has had a tragic accident.
Yeah. How to say, this is a great shot they used to establish for Cursed Earth and Mega City 1. And it's a good way of getting across the scale and how messed up the Big Meg is, because in a literally in 5 minutes, this VA tells from Carl Urban as Dredd tells
Yeah.
you all the essentials. The Big Meg is basically the western seaboard of the United States.
Mm.
Sorry, the eastern seaboard.
Oh, sorry, yeah. And
Everything kind of westward is just an irradiated wasteland, and this is what they've had to do to
it
survive.
it is a unique environment where they've saved the various populations of Earth by building these mega cities, which of course 40K fans would would know have a strong sort of hive city element to them.
Mm,
But in the same way as well, because they've got all these people in them, those people need protection and they need money and they need jobs. And unfortunately, a megacity can't really provide those. In fact, in the comics, it's known as a really odd place in which a lot of people don't actually do anything. They want to do
yeah,
something. So they
yeah,
spend most of their time just getting in trouble because they're bored.
absolutely. It's a very odd setting. It's a wonderful place to have satire in, and that's the thing
Yes.
that gets missed. Dredd is a massive piss take of authoritarian overreach,
Yeah.
police states. He's the ultimate expression of that.
Yeah,
Now,
that's something as well that I think people maybe who've just come to Dread when seeing this film,
mm,
or we're now seeing as well because of the Taika news as well, people coming out and going, "Well, I remember Dread, and he's not the director to do my Dread," and blah 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 blah. It's Dread is far more nuanced in the comics. There's, as you
yeah,
say, a lot of satire. He's poking fun at a lot of things, not only the law and the misuse of the law that Dredd represents, but also almost every fad, every fashion, every societal element has shown up in the comics by various writers
absolutely, yeah,
who literally fling it at the audience and go, "Look how stupid you're being, folks."
yeah. There's literally nothing that the writers of 2000 AD will not give a good kicking by way of Judge Dredd if given half a chance. And often it's subtle. Oftentimes, nah, it's not. I mean, ironically, one of the biggest hurdles for Dredd hitting the screen was RoboCop. Because
Yeah.
RoboCop, when it came out in was it 89,
Mm.
88, RoboCop takes a big dollop of the satire that's all over the Judge Dredd universe in particular,
Yeah.
and that means that although it didn't do that first, it did it first on the big screen. It did it first cinematically to a
Yep.
wider audience. So when Danny Cannon's version with Stallone came out in '95,
Mm.
although that take aesthetically is a wonderful interpretation of Mega City 1 by way of Hollywood,
Yep.
it had to have that satire element filed away. It was played much more straight as an action movie or an action comedy with bits of Rob.
I
What have I
know.
forgotten? Yeah,
Robert, good old Rob Schneider.
yeah.
I
It's a
mean,
shame that
a challenge for them as well is that also it very much became a star vehicle for Stallone.
yes,
So it became
yeah,
more about the person who was playing the role, and that's the challenge as well. Is
mm,
that Dredd is a I mean, how would you put it? Because with Batman, you always have Bruce Wayne,
mm.
and with Iron Man, you always have Tony Stark. But the whole nature. I mean, would you
I
say
mean,
he is the urban V for Vendetta?
I mean, Joe Dredd is kind of a bit of an oddity in comics because the way 2000 AD works as well. Judge Dredd's stories. Now he's been published since 1977. All each year of Judge Dredd in comics is a year of real time.
Yeah,
So it's actually a one for one. So we're coming up on 50 years of Judge Dredd. Dredd in the comics is pushing a century because he wasn't a young man when they introduced him in his first stories.
yep,
They were very clear on that he was a veteran street judge. Uh, as this film notes later on when we meet some of the other judges, he's a legend within the department, even if that legend at this point hasn't reached the broader inhabitants of Mega City 1.
mm,
And but the thing is, there's also their mystique because although other judges remove their helmets, Dredd, we've never seen his face ever. Even when we've been introduced to clones of him or the people or the man he's cloned from, we've never
yep,
seen that face exposed ever. Uh, So on one hand, it's a wonderful vehicle for an actor who just wants to inhabit a costume, but also it's a tricky one because, like you say, to to star as that sort of character, you need to remove a whole lot of ego. And sadly, 95 Stallone, as much of a nerd as he is, and he is a genuine one,
Yeah,
as
he
much
absolutely is.
as
Yeah.
much of a comic book fan as he is, that era Stallone, he wasn't going to be able to resist taking the helmet off, and no studio was going to let him keep the helmet on for a whole movie.
Oh no,
Or
it was the money. They needed him to take the helmet off. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been a film.
Yeah, which is ironic because he's actually a Stallone is actually a good fit for Dredd. I mean,
Mm.
Copland Stallone would probably have
Oh,
made an even
wow.
better Judge Dredd,
Yeah.
because people do forget that Stallone can act his ass off. He's a damn good actor when he's given the right material and the right motivation, sadly. In this case, Carl Urban was very clear from first time he was announced as Dredd. He did not want to take the helmet off. That was one of his conditions for taking the role. And it was kind of a good thing to have an actor of his stature, because although Carl Urban is very much a cult actor, even
Yep.
today, with the broader exposure that The Boys has given him, because he's been in so much, but he's also so damn flexible. You can give him almost any material, and he will kill it stone dead. And he makes a great Dredd here, I think. Um, Also, Olivia Philby as Anderson.
Which is could have been a very thankless role, and
Mm.
she is absolutely stunning. And I'll be honest as well. I know I'm just going to jump in between various things. As by the way, the noise has started outside. Lord knows what's coming into my recording, but hey, here we go, folks.
Well, I
But
can't hear anything, so you're
oh,
fine.
that's good. That's good. But her role could have been so lightweight.
Mm.
Her role could have been token almost.
Yeah.
And obviously, with the Stallone Dread as well, they didn't even really approach this character because they knew that there was just no way it was just going to become a
Mm.
cheesy love story. But she does such a fantastic job of portraying the role of a psychic, and therefore as well showing the power of their version of the warp, or their version of the psychic realm, or at
Yeah.
least the immediate presence of one.
Mm.
It is, for me, I know we've talked about recent recording of Event Horizon that you and Gruffy did,
Mm.
but for me this was one of the most faithful examples on film that I've seen of a psychic being a psychic and
Yeah.
using psychic power as a weapon.
Absolutely. And honestly, the way they took this approach of putting in a younger version of Anderson, because
Mm,
in the comics, Dredd has done this whole arc of Dredd taking a rookie out on the streets. They've done it multiple times over the
yeah.
decades. It's a fairly good beat to run with Dredd because you can do a lot of different things with it. Anderson in the comics, she doesn't appear until I think Judge Death first turns up
Yes.
in the early 80s, I believe.
Yep.
And at that time, she's an established side judge in her own right. She greets Dredd by name as Joe. She's one of the only people who does that. And you can see it irks him a little bit. It's quite funny. Um, and this is actually a really nice way to introduce the two characters. And because it's set so much earlier in the timeline, because this is Mega City 1 before it's gone bonkers.
Yes.
We see the hab blocks, but they're still isolated. But you can still see the existing city around it. Whereas as it becomes, all of these blocks just become bigger and more dense and more filled in. And the important thing is, for hab blocks, they're not just big tower blocks.
Mm,
They're arcologies. Every hab block is a self-contained city, effectively.
yeah.
But that's what they are. And arcology is a classic bit of sci-fi design and city building theory, where you can have a self-contained building as a as a basically a vertical city in essence. Um, it's one of those things that's science fiction writers love to use. It's one that a particular brand of city builder loves to think about, and it gets banded around from time to time. It's a very interesting concept, and at this point, this is still a very prototype version of them. And the budget they had to work with on this film, which was a fairly low budget production, it's why they
It
shot in
it
South
was, yeah.
Africa, which all works to its benefit because it means that everything they do works towards the story. So the less high tech looking bikes and costumes, that tells you it's a much earlier period than we're used to seeing for Dredd, where things are much more high tech.
Funny,
Um,
you make a good point there as well,
mm,
because and for those listening as well who is maybe wondering sort of where D is going when he talks about early days and elements like that. So imagine if I was to say start talking about mutants and
mm,
other elements. So in the modern world of 2000 AD, so very much like the modern world of 40k, you have extremes. You have mutants that are allowed. Some mutants are allowed in society. Some mutants are core elements of the law and
mm,
the ruling classes. Other mutants are far more extreme, but they are hunted, they are fought against. But you have these massive extremes, and they're just there. And if you are from today's world, you're a normal person, you are stunned. How do they get away with this? Why is this allowed? How is this such a weird and crazy world? Well, this this is almost the slow steps towards that. After a
mm.
while, you imagine after the film ends, things don't get better. They get more extreme. There are mutants. There are mutants mentioned in this film. But by the time of the 2000 AD that we see in the comics, the mutants are very much mutated. There are 8 and 9 foot tall people. There are people with extra arms, extra limbs, real
Yeah,
like, horror story mutants. But some of them are upstanding members of society. And you have these
absolutely.
extremes, and a lot of the time it's played for laughs. Or it's played as you said as well. It's like this satire and this sort of underlying British dry humor. There's a
Mm,
lot of it in the comic, but in order to balance out, because Dredd is always balancing out this grim dark, and yes, it is grim and dark, but it's also neon grimdark. It's
yeah,
cyberpunk grimdark. In fact, cyberpunk 2027 might be the one of the closest
yeah, yeah.
environments. You take that setting and put Judge Dredd into that, and you can imagine how crazy that contrast is. But yeah, for this, they had a small budget. They couldn't go crazy. They had to go to the very core of what
Mm,
Judge Dredd is. And Judge Dredd is a guy trying to bring law to the lawless.
yeah. That is pretty much the key selling point for a character. And like this gets name checked earlier on,
Mm,
there's so much crime in Mega City One. The judges can't police it all.
yeah,
That it's impossible. They are providing. I mean, the whole reason the judges exist, it's. I won't go fully into the background because it gets real deep, and they've delved into it in so much depth over the years. It's
oh, there's so much in the way
yeah,
of law.
but basically, there was a third world war, or there was a world war, shall we say at this point? Because who knows?
Yeah,
And the world got well and truly shafted.
yeah.
And in this part of the United States, a faction emerged to stand against. Oh, interesting. A populist president who was a bit of a
Yeah.
braggart who had a, shall we say, a lack of moral fiber,
Hmm.
and they chose to stand against him and and basically take control of the country. It was basically a coup in
Yeah.
essence. Um, and something they touch on in the comics quite a lot is the judges were never intended to be a permanent thing. They've actually tried to. They do actually make efforts from time to time to give democracy back or introduce more democratic systems to Mega City One. and they play it for laughs a bit, but so often they don't work out like intended. But Dredd himself has become a very nuanced character of years because one, he's old. They
Yeah.
get into the idea that he's seen a lot in his lifetime, more than really anyone really should do. But also, he can see what's wrong with the system, and he within his own confines, because it's not just a case of that Dredd has been trained to be a judge. He's actually a clone himself. He's been conditioned in his genes to be a law enforcer, to be what he is. And the very idea that he can show moments of humanity and flexibility is kind of impressive in its own right. But the thing I really love about this film in particular is that the events of this film, it's literally just a day in the life of Judge Dredd.
Yeah.
That's what's beautiful about it. It can literally be any day on the beat. He could be dealing with stuff like this.
He even downplays this at the end. Like
Yeah,
the whole story of this film to him is just like, yeah, there was a bit of an issue.
yeah. Oh, and we
Shocking,
get a
but true.
sorry. Also, shout out here to Lena Headey, who really does nail it as Mama. She is
Yeah. No, this was post. Was it post completion of Game of Thrones?
no. This was mid Game of Thrones.
Okay,
This was
so at
2012.
its
So,
popular peak.
mm, and
I know we said we don't react. We rarely do actually do a lot of reactions here, but I like that one of the gangs is actually a twisted version of Judges.
yeah, it's a bit of a riff on the whole thing where Punisher has fanboys among police
Yeah.
departments, which he absolutely despises. Because the judges would they'd arrest any of these judged guys they came across.
Oh, they
They're
would,
they're
yeah,
not
absolutely.
they don't condone them. They're not authorized or anything. They are literally a gang who have gone so far into their psychosis that they try to make themselves look like the judges, which is such a it's a really dark idea when you start to think about it. Because how
Yeah.
far do you have to be that as a gang, criminal gang, that you ape the look of basically the biggest group out there? Mainly probably because, like the medic says, they don't often see judges in peach trees.
It would be like a group of maybe, I'd say Imperial Guard, because although Imperial Guard in the 40k universe are following the rules,
Hmm.
but imagine a group of 40k Guard who base themselves off the brief sightings of custodies that they've seen, because they
Yeah,
believe that they are, if they ape them, that they will have more power. And but also because they see them so rarely, they also have this mythical status. And they do even say in the film, I don't think judges ever entered this building, this massive city of a block. And yet that's how stretched they are. They're
mm,
almost a myth. It's like most of the population fends for itself, and it's only when things get really bad or really crazy that a judge goes in. And it is, maybe one or maybe two judges, and that's it. And they're expected to just deal with this.
yeah, and that is also why it's the logic for why they are so hardcore in
Yeah.
their, their judgments and their zero tolerance policy because they can't afford not to. It, it
No,
it's such a grim city, but it's also one that has inspired so much because the obvious link for us is the guys who created 40k. They read a lot of 2000 AD. If
yep.
you weren't aware of that, find a copy of Rogue Trader and look at any of the artwork. Don't
Oh
even read
yeah.
it. Just look at the artwork. If you're not getting 2000 AD vibes from that, I can't help you. But then they invented the Adeptus Arbites,
Yep.
the enforcers of the Lex Imperial, the Imperial law. and right back to their first miniatures for, I don't know if they were intended for confrontation, but they had 3 miniatures back in the day, a squad leader and 2 troopers, and then they got a refresh during the second edition, where they leaned even harder on the Judge Dredd iconography of the big eagle shoulder pad, the big shotgun, the big plate armor, and they've just refined it more and more till we get to today, where we don't just have some gorgeous plastic minis of VR bites, but also they've had a major bit of DLC for Rogue Trader, and they've been introduced into Dark Tiders for 5th playable class.
And
And
and this is something that I'd be really interested in your viewpoint on this as well, because we all know GW have uh, a very established view on IP,
mm,
and they do not suffer fools or anyone trying to make money off their IP lightly. They defend their property vigorously. Yes, we know that Abites have a lot from the judges. They are
mm,
basically the 40k version of judges. But for them to come out recently and go, we're actually just going to play into this heavily, shows that they really do follow the lead. This is maybe one of the few areas where GW goes, look, I'm sorry, they're not anything else. They are judges.
yeah,
And I don't think I do even wonder if maybe behind the scenes they've just gone to Fleetway and gone, look, we know we're a huge company and we know you're relatively quite small in comparison. We want to do this. Is there a problem? Please
well,
let us go full in on this. And I reckon they've had a talk.
it's funny because it's not even Fleetwood anymore; it's Rebellion.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Because Rebellion have been running 2000 AD since, I want to say, the. Hang on, I can find out because I happen to bring up the
Oh, well done.
IMDb page.
Well,
Oh,
whilst you do
Rebellion.
that as well, are they? Because I was trying to figure out,
Hmm,
are they also then sub-owned by someone else now? Because let's face it, everything is owned by.
right,
Are
to
they a
my
standalone?
knowledge, Rebellion Developments Limited is a standalone company, private, founded by the Kingsley brothers in 1992. They're most famous as video game developers. They created the original, well, they do the Sniper Elite games. They they published possibly the most well-known of the Aliens vs Predator video games,
Yep.
and also another one more recently. Uh, and you know what? I'm generally impressed with Rebellion because you don't think of them too much, but they do. They're a bit of a under the radar British success story
Hmm.
because they've been running for over 30 years now. And I mean, they bought 2000 AD purely because the founders were fans of the. They wanted because Fleetway was in dire straits in the late 90s.
Yeah.
2000 AD hadn't had it had some bad years creatively and critically.
Plus, as well, the comic
Oh yeah,
industry was
the
going
British
through its
comic industry.
crash.
If you want to hear more about that, listen to the Wham podcast with
Hmm.
our
Mr. Turnbull and Mr. Gruffy.
yes, which offers some fantastic insights into that period of British comics, which was
Mhm.
yes. Let's leave it at that, shall we? Um, but yeah, they basically have. I mean, they've kept 2000 AD going and brought it back to some relevance, to be honest, which is kind of impressive and fair play to them. But it wouldn't surprise me if some fans at Games Workshop did reach out to Rebellion and say, "Look, we have these 2 games. We've just done a rework of our bites, which
Yep.
everyone knows are inspired by Judge Dredd. We want to lean into it. what can we do to make this work?
Hmm.
And when you watch that trailer for Dark Tide that introduced the Arbite
Oh,
class,
good grief! Yeah,
which is just this speech that Carl Urban gives
yeah.
in a little while over the intercom, it's you have to think someone on Rebellion's side had to have given the okay for that.
Absolutely. So I think it was British tradition of, yeah, you're right with us doing this. I mean, as well, they did, for a while, GW did have a licensing agreement.
Oh yeah, yeah. Back
So
in
there is history, but because GW is so huge now, it's probably one of the rare occasions where GW would still respect,
hmm,
the comic makers, go to them, be super polite, say, look, are you okay with us doing this? Because they
yeah,
know of course they could get away with it if they wanted to, but it's one of those few things as well. This is very much anyone can enjoy this, and people
mm,
will read into Dredd whatever they want. And that's one of the strangely universal things about Dredd, is that because he is not seen, he is a helmet, he is a position, he is a place in society, but it means that you can then interpret him however you want. But
yeah,
there is still this huge relevance. I would know, just reverberates. It just
yeah,
he has points throughout British history, and us being slightly older gentlemen, me being, I believe, the only one out of the two of us who can actually remember a single moment in time from technically the 1970s. There were elements of Dread that was very, very relevant in the 70s. There's also elements that were
mm,
relevant in the 80s. The 90s, oh my goodness. The 2000s, don't kid yourself. The
yeah,
10s, 20s now, and the sad thing is we're almost going full circle now and heading more towards elements of the 70s relevance right now. So there's
absolutely.
all sorts of things that can pop up.
Yeah, and it's worth remembering that the writers of Dread have always had this finger on the pulse almost. They've always been writers of generally who get what Dread is intended for
Mm.
and what he's a vehicle to be used for. And fair play to the creatives. I mean, Dread's an institution now. I mean, he's had his own separate title, the magazine, for best part of 30 odd years now, if not a
He's
bit longer.
he's had umpteen American series. Admittedly,
Yeah.
they've normally been limited releases, but
Yeah.
he's something that people know.
Mm.
It's at this point as well. It's when they announce any involving him, it carries a lot of weight with a certain audience. It's
Yeah.
one of the reasons why the news about Taika getting interested. And I should say as well, people instantly read Taika and they just
Mm.
went, oh, he's the guy in charge. It's like, no, he's wanted to work on something with a particular writer for a very long time. And they
Mm.
want to do something on this. Now, yes, I don't think he's going for Guardians of the Galaxy style humor, but he's also not going for this. And there
Yeah.
there is a balance to be had. So, don't freak out too much, because remember, what you think of Dread, I mean, of course, if there is someone here who has read it since day one, good for you, and you will have more knowledge than us. But there are elements of this very film we're watching now, that are actually too dark for pure Dread. And
Yeah.
when I say that as well, I don't take it just from me. I take it from Judge Dredd himself. Have you ever read Trilogy? Is it Trilogy?
Is that the one with him, Dirty
Triplicate?
Frank, and the undercover judge who's a
No.
simp?
It was meant to be a one-off. They did a kind of sequel to it, but it is one where various time universe shenanigans result in
Ah.
Stallone's Dread, Urban's Dread, and Comic Dread
Oh.
meeting up. And the first thing Urban says as he looks at them is like, "Are you two on your way to a fancy dress?" And then I think it's Comic Dread responds to him with, "That's a lot of body armor. Are you scared about getting shot?" So they're straight off. But there are lots of nods, obviously towards the end. Stallone Dread is seen without his mask, and you just the other two very quietly off to one side are like, what, why is he doing that? What, that never happens. But also at the same time, and this is very telling, this Dread, there's a perp, he's taken down, but this Dread, Urban Dread, goes to take him out. And Comic Dread goes, whoa, 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 you're not doing that in my city. That is not right. You don't do that. Follow my rules. Not everything
Yeah.
is clean cut here. There's a lot of nuance. And again, like,
Mm.
if they made this lighter and more comical, maybe it would have done better. If they made it more serious and grim and dark or horrific, maybe that would have done more. But there was a lot going against this film as
It
much as
there
going
there
for it.
really was. I mean, it's important to remember 2012 was when 3D was in this real. It had come back as a real fad, and
Oh,
so many films were almost mandated to have it put back in, either added in production
yep.
or in post due to Avatar, and that's mainly because most folks didn't get that James Cameron is a maniac, two, a genius, and three, he understands technology in filmmaking like very few people I've ever seen the work of.
He structured a project with 3D in mind, but at a almost granular level.
Yeah. Now
Whereas this, which by the way, the title for this film is Dread 3D.
that's how it's
That is
marketed.
that
Yeah.
is yep, that is the name.
Yeah.
Um, this was they used an awful lot of 3D elements. The
Mm.
the camera work in this film is sumptuous. There is a lot of really good lighting. They work with layers all the time. Urban himself is a special effect in that mask because it's just
Yeah.
very nicely done. And of course, slow-mo is the real bait for every little element
Yeah.
of 3D
As
effects.
as a way of getting the 3D into the film, slow-mo is a great way of doing it. And I appreciate the fact that they tried.
They did
The
try.
the issue was, well, it was twofold. Twofold?
Yeah.
Maybe more
Well,
threefold.
yeah.
First one, 2012 also saw the release of a little film called The Raid, which involved an elite squad of cops entering I think
A
entirely
large a large building.
a large building and having to fight their way through hordes of mooks.
Mm,
It's a superlative action movie. I
yep.
highly recommend it. And the team, it's a stunning bit of work.
Yep.
Unfortunately, that meant that Dredd got a lot of critique for how it compared, which is a really unfair thing for both films, in fact.
Yeah, and in terms of timing as well, like the time it took to film this and produce this, there is no way that the films could have had. I mean, a lot of the talk has always been that Dredd somehow copied from the other film, but the
It's
filming
like,
of this made that absolutely impossible.
yeah.
There's
Unfortunately,
gone.
I was going to say, unfortunately, there are elements of the wider world who are either willingly obtuse about that fact and don't want to acknowledge the realities of how long it takes to make a bloody film,
Mhm.
or they kind of don't care that to inform themselves, and that can harm perceptions of a movie. The fact that it was 3D,
Yep.
that was a thing because at the time 3D you had to pay extra for the glasses at that point. It
You
was
had to
still
pay you had to pay extra for the glasses, and as people know nowadays as well, nowadays there are not enough cinemas for all of the films, especially the big screen, the luxury screens,
yeah.
the IMAX, all of that. If you think it's bad now, it was awful then. And although they did have screenings of Dredd in 2D, in fact, that was what they really had to do. The fact was that they advertised this as Dredd 3D. Now
Yeah.
you imagine you're a fan of something like this, hard hitting, dark, grim, but also you don't like the idea of fads in your film. You want Dredd, excuse the slight OTT here, but you want Dredd raw, you want hard hitting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know I didn't get away with that, but there we go. uh, it's but you want like we're seeing on the screen, you want tension. You don't want gimmicks. So the idea of hearing, oh, something's going to be in 3D until it goes onto TV and then it will be in 2D, that's great. But the problem was that a lot of people were put off going to the 2D version because they thought, well, there isn't going to be much of a 2D version, but the 3D is going to be too gimmicky. So
Yeah.
you had fans really in a bit of a mess over this. And also, and if you don't mind me, a little bit of an extra thing on this, Steve, but
Sure.
also we are not long after the Stallone Dread. And Stallone Dread really did leave a sour taste in a lot of fans' mouths. And again, in terms of current timeline when we're recording this, just think of Transformers. I
Yeah.
guarantee you probably like a Transformers film. It might be the 86 film. It might be the first Bay film. But I bet you didn't like those last couple of Bay films, did you? And I bet you didn't see Bumblebee, even though it was really good. And I bet you haven't seen Transformers 1, even though it's really, really good. Okay, it's not a work of art, but
But it's a good film.
it would have grown if people had given it the chance to see it at the cinema and not just seen it on home video and gone, oh, I really like that now. Can we get a sequel? No, too late. Welcome to the story of Dread,
Yeah.
a film that is
Too
almost
late.
the poster child for, yeah, too late.
Too late. We're bringing Bay back. Oh, monkey's paw.
But there's
See.
so much as well. There's so much color coding in this. And I unfortunately Dee will have to struggle on this recording because unlike other shows that we've done, I've already watched and edited the still movie of this film. There are so many good moments. It's
There
very much
really
as
are.
well, very much a film negative film. So you don't get a lot of great still images, but in motion, it's beautiful. Urban's helmet, those little marks down the side, is beautiful. The model work is sublime, and there are genuinely some tiny little touches. There's one touch which I don't think anyone has ever commented on, which is and oh, perfect timing. Yes, I'm going to react to the screen. There is a relationship between the henchman and Mama, and it's beautiful.
Mm,
And he might be the only person that she gives a damn about, and vice versa. And it's unspoken during the film. No one's ever mentioned it. And I think it pays off
yeah.
at the end in a kind of dream sequence that no one's ever commented on. Anyway, enough rambling for me, D. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I mean, one of the things that was frustrating when I saw it. Okay, for me, it's twofold because I can't actually register the 3D image. My brain, something with how my head's wired. My eyes
Hey.
they don't translate images the same way most people do. So going to see a film in 3D, I don't get the 3D effect. So I'm basically going to see a film and then paying for glasses to just make the film darker.
Mm.
Which with a film like Dread, which has such sumptuous color coding going on, is annoying. But what really hurts about Dread not being classed as a success is that when I went to see it, I don't know if you can say the same, Adam, but I went to see it. My local cinema had, I think, two showings of this film, both weekday nights at
And they were
7:30 in the
rammed.
evening, and they were absolutely rammed.
Yep.
Men, women, real cross section of genders. No, no tipping the scales one way or the other. It was but jam-packed screen.
All ages as well. This is really
Yeah,
important. Dread
and
has a
he
lot of older and younger fans.
and even though it wasn't, and it's an 18 certificate, it earns that 18.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong, but it still brought in an audience. I can only imagine if there had been more screenings, more 2D screenings, how many more people would have gone out to see this film, because word of mouth. Soon as people saw this film, the word of mouth on it was through the roof. The
It was
first the
it
first
was
reactions I saw online for it were just glowing.
really good. Is the problem was as well that it was at a time as well, and people listening to this, it almost feels like another world. But do you remember when there were big budget films coming out every week and everyone would go and see them, and films were being pulled from cinemas because, well, we've got six other films and we've got three more films coming out and they're all blockbusters and we don't have room for this, so we're pulling it now because it's the lowest of the ones we've got,
Yeah,
even though there's massive amounts of money left on the table. And that was the reality of films back then, is that you'd get, especially in peak blockbuster season, you were getting three, four, five blockbusters every, I would say, fortnight. And so people were having, and studios chains as well, were just having to go, right, well, we can't put Dread on every day now. We'll just put them on once at a weekend or something like that. And so people were
yeah.
desperately trying to find screenings. But of
Well,
course,
that's it.
it didn't really matter as well how much we in the UK loved it. Unfortunately, it also relied a lot on America.
Yeah, and the American cinema model is even more brutal than ours. It's
People
because
didn't
their
even
rating
people
systems.
didn't like as well the fact that, I mean, again, speaking as Brits, we weren't over the moon with Stallone's interpretation of Dredd. Naturally, we wouldn't be. There was a lot wrong with that film. There were some things they got right, but most of it just didn't feel like our film. But in America, it's slightly different. And Dredd isn't as well known. In fact, Dredd was mostly known for that Stallone film.
Yeah,
So suddenly, a guy who doesn't take off his helmet in a grim, dark film that doesn't look the most chipper, that's not really going to go down especially well. It's like right now, as we record this, we have, was it the latest in the 28 Days Later franchise?
yeah,
It's not exactly a chipper film. Guess what? Audiences aren't lining up to go see it again and again and again. It's just the way it is.
yeah. Sadly, it, it, I mean, I've been gratified though to see how Dredd has really picked up on home streaming and DVD, Blu-ray. That really did do it for World of Good, though.
Yeah.
It,
It's done well on streaming. I think as well it was quite late to the party when it comes to DVDs, and the
mm.
huge DVD high of home media had kind of dropped off by the time Dread came out, but it still did well.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have the Blu-ray, and it's one of the more bare bones Blu-rays because, like I say, 2012 was getting towards the end of that period of features being of something that people really wanted. Streaming was starting to really come into its own, but it was a good disc, and it's found its home in later years. And one thing I've been quite taken by is how much Urban and Philby both have expressed a desire to return to the characters.
Yep.
They've both said if they were given the chance, they'd be there.
Oh, I honestly think as well when it comes to Olivia, I think Ishimo is almost the bigger want for me than Urban. And I know that
Mm,
sounds crazy to a lot of you out there, but it was a thankless role. In fact, I'm stunned that they even went away. So as we're watching this, we are about 5 minutes after seeing one of two very brief,
mm,
sort of what would you call it? Not dream sequence, psychic sequences
yeah.
that involve her in a compromising position and some very partial nudity. I really hope that that wasn't just something that the studio heads insisted on. I really, really hope it's not the case. And I hope she was comfortable doing that. I mean, hopefully she didn't even need to worry about that. Fingers crossed they used the body
Yeah.
double. But it was a very, very tough role for her to do. A very constricted role and yet
Mm.
fantastic. Meanwhile, of course, we're seeing the British take on, for a start, if you see guns being loaded up opposite you across a big landing, it's the British mentality to come out of your flat and watch. Also, as well, they had their equivalent of the Independence Day dog with the kid that does survive. His parents literally get pureed in front of him, but he survives. Well done, kid. That was probably the one nod to American films.
Mm.
I love this stuff though. It's
It
just so
really,
frenetic.
yeah, it's a great little bit as well, just for showing how absurdly OTT these things are. I mean, effectively, those are pretty much the cannon from the A10 Tank Killer, given the
They are, aren't
damage
they?
they're
Yeah.
doing.
Are
Lots of
they?
fun.
Sorry. Are they also? Are they also the Arnie minute? Lena, the because by this point, T2 would have been a distant memory
Mm.
for many people. But didn't he hold something like that?
He used a Gatling, electric Gatling gun, a minigun in
Okay.
T2. The first time it was actually one of those was depicted being used by someone on foot was Predator with Jesse
Yep.
Ventura's Blaine. No one can actually fire them like that though, because, well, for one thing, no one's Jesse Ventura or Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Yeah.
and you don't see the masses of power packs hidden behind them to power the damn thing. Um, but yeah, these are basically the it's Gatling guns, chain guns. They have a sliding scale. What we tend to think of as a minigun on a like on a pintle mount
Mm.
is much more basically a much more rapid fire machine gun in
Yep.
essence. Whereas what we've just seen them use, that's more of a cannon caliber of weapon, so they're designed more for light vehicle hunting,
Okay.
that sort of thing. And if they have the lovely depleted uranium shells of the A10's cannon, well, that's
Yeah.
kill anything territory because they just don't stop.
I'm I'm going to point to this moment in the film, and again, yeah, I know you're surprised. I'm actually talking about the film, but there is a lovely, almost Olivia has a moment to breathe. Her character has a moment to breathe. She sees
Yeah,
the city. She has some freedom. Even though, and it doesn't get more brutalistic than the fact that a bunch of skateboarders skateboard halfway up this mega structure and
yeah,
they're stuck outside while all this is going on. And they probably just had a load of bullets rain through and they're just, look, we've got nowhere else to go. This is just what we're doing, and it allows the filmmakers as well to play around. I guarantee the little snowflakes or flakes of whatever it is in the atmosphere,
yeah.
dust.
Best not to think too much about what those flakes are, to be
It's
honest.
probably human bodies, but it was another little 3D nod, and yeah, they just play, and then they're back to these claustrophobic insides. But as they finished that huge action scene, you also saw a lovely shot of the building. It was broken, it was pocket holed, it had virtually nothing left. And yet, the important thing, it's resilient, it's still standing. There are hundreds of levels above this floor right now, and it's just the same thing, the same thing, the same
Yeah,
thing. So, this is a moment that I didn't realize until I did the still film. This is the final time, technically, that you see that guy. However, I'm going to come back to him because I believe he makes a cameo at the end. But there's no payoff as well.
mm,
It goes against the rules of action films. Even at this time, you still expected some sort of witty line or payoff or something, and yet there was
yeah,
nothing. Dredd is not interested in that. It's in the same way as well that he has a female partner, and he is absolutely not interested in her beyond her use as a judge, which ironically makes Judge Dredd one of the most fair films to watch in terms of the balance of genders and equality. Even though you have a judge who's busy beating up a suspect.
yeah. It's it's a look, isn't it, for this period?
Now, Dredd has become so synonymous with what he is. He's been distilled so much over the years that he then ends up like every other successful franchise who don't really have a large presence in world media, but that makes him ripe for crossovers. And
Mm.
Dredd has had some absolutely corking ones that some people might not realize. So, for instance, the Judge Dredd and Batman comics
Yeah, three
are
of those, if I remember
fantastic.
rightly. And so you had Batman Dread, you've had Dread versus Predator,
Yep,
which they even tied into the films because you had a side judge who was a descendant of Dutch
yep,
from the film. I'm pretty sure they've done Judge Dredd versus Aliens, which
yep, pretty sure of that.
which is see, the Predator and the Alien are kind of odd cases because in any other setting, they're kind of apex level opponents. But for Dredd, there's a lot of messed up stuff in the Dredd universe that he's already gone up against. So, an alien hunter and an alien that can breed very quickly are not exactly at the top of his list of things to be worried about. So,
Oh, also, welcome to the psychic realm. And
mm,
this is about as close to Slanesh as I've seen depicted in film, which is really weird because there's so much of this moment is all about desire and lust and pride and overconfidence and emotion and yeah, just genuinely shocking.
yeah, I generally love how she turns the tables on him because she has kind of given the impression for a lot of the film so far that she is in over her head.
Yep.
But this is the moment where she kind of shows that no, there's steel underneath there. You do not want to mess with this lady. She she can properly fuck you up.
And yet she still as well has a conscience, which
Mm,
Anderson has as well in the comics. She's
yeah,
not nobody is quite as beaten down by the world as Dredd is.
and even then,
Maybe
Joe,
maybe Magruder, but Magruder's a bit of an odd case.
she's odd. Hershey, in her more recent appearances that I've seen, has gone a bit in that direction.
Okay.
To say, Dredd has kind of benefited from the broadening of his support network because it's not just a case now where he has a broad supporting cast of characters. He actually has family members
Yeah.
because you have his niece Venna, and he has two clones. There's a another Judge Rico, who
Mhm.
at this point has actually been around about almost 20 years at this point, and there's another clone, a younger one, who decided he didn't want to be a judge
Hmm.
and was able to walk away from that destiny. So it's kind of interesting in that school that it's given him ways that they can try to not necessarily mellow him, but give him a bit more nuance than the stereotype that he embodies.
Around the time of the Stallone film,
Hmm.
I think I'm right in saying this. There was a story that ended with, I believe the person being saved was a blind girl. And the blind girl asked to touch his face. And so, in a very silhouetted, sealed off shot, Dredd took off his helmet and the kid, quote unquote, saw him.
Hmm.
It was, I think, one of those moments that they got as close as they can to showing him. But
Yeah.
even at the time, the comic were like, yeah, we just don't want to do this. We've
Well,
got no interest in this.
it's one of those things. Dredd does take his helmet off in the comics, we've seen him in situations with the helmet off.
Mm.
They just are very careful never to show us his full face.
Yep.
I mean, the only real length of time he ever had the helmet off was during the Dead Man arc, where
Mm.
they got around that by basically covering him head to toe in bandages and effectively being a different personality for
Yeah.
most of the story. Um, but it's become so iconic though, that look of him with the helmet and the chin, especially the the Carlos Esguerra chin that became so famous for drawing,
Mm.
that you can't really imagine him any other way. And it'd almost feel weird to see him without the helmet at this point,
Yeah.
if they ever. Like I say, they've made a point of never showing any of his clones or precedents, who all would have looked exactly like him. They've made a point of not showing any of those with their faces either. So it's kind of impressive that 50 years and they've never revealed his face. That's got to be a bit of a record when you stop and think about it, you know?
Yeah.
Just to keep the. And I don't think he'd have been as successful of a character if they had done that, because it adds to the mystique, and it's given him this whole vibe that just doesn't really appear in a lot of other fiction before this. Like I say, we've had stuff since that riffs on Dredd, but it's still a bit of an all timer for character design.
It's funny. I think back to at the time when Dredd first came out, or rather those first formative, say, decade,
Hmm.
and arguably the biggest and bad guy, and that's what I think Dredd was a little bit more portrayed as, at least a semi bad guy, or at least a very
Hmm.
dark anti-hero. But you had the likes of, I know it sounds odd, but Darth Vader.
Yeah.
And a lot of people I think probably came out of Jedi going, well, Vader was good until he took the mask off and it was an old man, just some random dude. And the thing is that it's not like anyone anyone has this great idea of, oh, Judge Dredd looks like this famous person or this beautiful ideal. He'll take his helmet off and he's just a person. But
Yeah.
with the helmet on, he's an ideal, or an
Hmm.
idea, or a force of nature, and that makes it so much more interesting. And also, the design, especially in this as well, the design of the helmet is such that it just allows Carl to do like little twitches with his mouth, and
Hmm.
the kind of the visor really sells it.
Yeah, it's actually kind of cool because the helmet in this one riffs a lot closer to that initial couple of years of Dread.
Yeah, very with the
Um,
cross on the over the nose type
the
thing.
more rounded feel, that it's much more like a biker helmet than anything else. Whereas I think by the time the 80s had rocked around, the helmet especially had become what we now think of. Uh, I mean, initially Dread's also much more of a wiry character,
Yes.
which tends to be forgotten. He's become a bit he's become blockier over the years as they've kind of tweaked the judge uniform here and there.
He's also gone from, as you say, blocky but muscular, to blocky but just blocky old man. You know,
Yeah.
he's gone from tough and fit to just tough and stubborn.
Oh, yes. That's always been a bit of a fun element to his personality, that whatever all else, he just won't stop.
You realize with the still movie of this, the amount of time Dredd actually spends in that tiny little close up is almost minuscule. It's such a tiny amount. I think
Mm.
he's done now, isn't he? Or no, he's got
Yeah.
he's got like 2 more bits. But it's just like it's more about the reactions to him
Mm. And
and beautiful
it's kind of fun
cutaways.
as well, because at this point they they still don't understand Dread's rep. which we're about to get when the corrupt judges turn up
Yeah.
and explain, you don't know who Dredd is. We do. That's why it's this much. Which I've always loved that particular beat, to be fair. But
We
it's a
also
great moment, just
sorry.
because this is kind of a bit where the entirety of Petrie's kind of understand. Oh no, he,
Mhm.
he's he's not going to stop, is he? And he starts trotting out for war crimes, shall we say?
Yeah. You know, whilst this has been going on as well, although we have an amazing selection of goons, and let's face it, nobody does goons like the north of England. And I'd imagine north of England with a healthy smattering of South Africa. I think the goonage in this film has been the goonage and the henchmanish stuff has been beautiful.
Oh
But
yeah, top notch.
but whilst this is all going on, you're starting to see as well a few little nods to like Dredd's armory, his different weapons. I mean, very much RoboCop stole Judge Dredd's weapon, like hook, line, and sinker. But also as well, we've not mentioned. I mean, we're not talking too much about the art. You know, the actors here; they all do fantastic jobs. But of course, Mr. Gleason was yet to really sort of see a
Yeah,
level of fame, and he's playing arguably the biggest victim in the entire film that frequently has to go through very traumatic stuff.
he does. Dommel really tugs on all the strings with his performance. I tell you what, I didn't realize, and it was only after I'd watched Force Awakens and then watched Dredd that I realized it was the same actor who played Hux,
Yeah.
because they're such wildly different performances, brilliant performances both. But fair play to him. I mean, this is a very well cast movie. Let's be honest. It's a small cast at the end of the day, but everyone just nails it.
I do wonder. I've not looked up on this. I know 2000 AD did a lot of stuff about the film and did
Mm.
follow-ons from it and so on and so forth. But I do wonder what the situation would have been for these two judges who were following the rules, who were put in an odd situation. If anything, the four judges here saved their lives by dismissing them and being dicks. But at the same time as well, they either stayed out there. Maybe we see them at the end. They stayed out there, and when everything kicked off, they were like, "Oh, maybe we should report this." Or they went back onto the beat, and then the next day they were like, "Really? It all went down at Peach Trees? What? There were four corrupt judges? Wow."
Yeah, I imagine there'd have been some stern questions from the SJS for them.
I do wonder as well where a lot of these people went to because this block was filled with a lot of people and businesses as well. And
Mm.
a lot of them wouldn't have been able to get away. So I wonder if there were bunkers. I mean, I know this is another in movie,
If
logic thing, but
if I remember rightly, in the universe, each hab block has its own internal bunker systems.
oh, cool.
There's a whole point of the hab block system. They're designed to resist another war. It's part of the intent behind it, not just to be the most efficient way of housing as many people as possible, but to protect them in the event of the worst case. So much so that, as we see in the Stallone Dredd, you have block wars breaking out,
Yeah.
where blocks will just have these rivalries and just literally start blowing seven hells out of each other,
Now,
which is
when they have that as well, I'm glad they didn't have that here. I think it,
mm,
it makes it far more intense that there's just get to the top, defeat the main gang, go
yeah,
through the various levels. But then bringing in these judges as well does a fantastic job of showing you how tough other judges are. Like they've come in, they are the only people that have shown zero Fs about the bad guy, or rather Mama.
yeah,
They basically she has been cringing as she talks to them. They've said exactly what they want and they're getting it, and they just walk
Yeah.
around like they own the place. And you do wonder actually if the two good judges, and again, I know it sounds odd for me to focus on this, but it's a great what if the two good judges had been let in, I guarantee you this operation would have been over in a couple of hours. Everyone would have been dead. Dredd would have won. They probably would have got Anderson back nice and easy, and no problem at all, no sweat. Literally, they would have gelled together. And you just think these are so highly trained. I don't know what the military equivalent of this is, but I'd like to say it's something like a ranger, someone who is highly skilled, or SAS, from what I've been told. Someone who is highly skilled, yes, can work in a team,
Mm.
but also excels at working individually.
Yeah. I mean, basically, we're talking about a ranger/commando archetype
Yeah.
with a heavy layer of law enforcement over the top. I mean, they are the ultimate paramilitary police force, the judges, which is a very important distinction to make as well. Paramilitary,
Mm.
in that a lot of the gear they're carrying. I mean, you can just see here, Dredd. This version, yes, they're giving him body armor, mainly for the vibe more than anything else. I
Yeah.
reckon you could probably have just left the body armor off, but they wanted a different aesthetic to make it feel more believable, if nothing else. Because I mean, hell, it's mainly bike armor as well, in essence,
Yeah.
just tweaked to look more military in style. But it leans into that vibe of what they've had to become to keep Mega City 1 going, or how they think Mega City 1 should be kept going. So, and they don't mess around.
Oh God, no.
And I mean, I do quite enjoy this particular little fight because
It's messy.
it's messy, it's up close, and as kills go, that is
That's a bad way to go.
it's a bit of an all-timer.
It's also a wonderful way to rub it into his mates.
Mm, absolutely.
But they do, each of them as well. They can't help but look really, really good. Even when they're being framed as, oh, you punks are about to get it. It's like they do a really, really good job of setting them up.
Yeah,
But it shows as well that unfortunately the whole world is so corrupt that these judges who have absolute power, well, absolute power ends up corrupting, and you know that. So
yeah,
they're only human.
exactly. There's always going to be some characters who, oh, this is a see. I always enjoyed this film's take on the lawgiver, which
Yeah.
itself is a bit inspired by more modern interpretations of the pistol.
Mm.
But I do, whenever they play into the fact that each lawgiver is keyed to its user,
Yeah.
it's they haven't harped on about it in this film. You had a brief snippet earlier on when Dredd's gearing up, and if you know your Judge Dredd, you know what's about to happen, and it's great.
Even the Stallone film played on this. It was one of the big things about the kind of soft announcement of Rico.
Yeah,
But the way that Anderson is playing with her food here as well, which is again another example of how far she has really gone before this film even started. She's gone through a terrible indoctrination. She's had to prove herself on the psychic realm and then go through judge training. She is a
yeah,
lot nastier. She could take anyone down if she wanted to. It's just how far will she go and how dark will she go?
yeah. I mean,
Um,
there's a reason her initial appearances was alongside Judge Death,
yes,
because she was the only individual who could stand up against him
yeah.
or could match him, and only in one specific environment. Physically, I mean, the Dark Judges are a fun idea. I'm actually glad none of the films that have touched on Dredd to date have really gone there yet because it's such an out there idea.
Wasn't it the idea? Wasn't it the bait that they put? If this film did well, there would be a second film, and the second film would be the judges, the Dark Judges.
I think that was rumored. I honestly, I'm glad that it's one of those things where I'm glad it didn't happen because you kind of need Anderson to be. I mean, honestly, at this point, if they were to do it now, that'd
Oh
be
yeah, now
perfect.
you could play it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not knocking against Philby, but the the character needs to be this much further down her career as a judge. Dredd needs to be this much further down.
she needs to be super confident and have that strength in
Mm,
herself that just translates to her psychic ability. Like right now, she's fussed, she's bothered by various things.
mm,
So you just know, yeah, just give it extra time. And again, apologies, folks, but she does look stunning now.
mm,
And that if there was anything that I would be worried about when it came to recasting, is them recasting for somebody that is now.
yeah.
It's the same with Carl as well. It's like there is the danger that they won't cast him, even though he's worked with Taika before and
Mm,
that went well. He played a comedic role,
yeah.
but also Carl does have the fans' love over this. So I'd imagine that Taika would go see Sense and cast him, go for some massive bad guys. But
Mm.
I really hope that they don't go, oh, well, we need somebody, I don't know, name a hot young starlet to be Anderson. Oh, what's the blonde lady that's in everything that was in she was in that terrible Madam Web film and
Oh, Sydney Sweeney.
yeah, Sydney Sweeney. Please don't have Sydney Sweeney as Anderson. I don't begrudge her talent at all, but again, you need an older actress. And for some reason as
Yeah.
well, I know it sounds really crazy, but Helen Mirren popped into my head and I was like, a little too old, but you know what?
I mean,
Would have the steel for the job.
Excalibur era Helen Mirren
Oh.
is how I could pick. Actually, thinking back to the
Ni-
original, her first
90,
appearance,
yeah.
that's pretty much how Anderson looks. She has that same sort of look to her.
I I have one question.
Hmm.
Is this the guy that Dredd just crushed the windpipe of?
No, that
Because
was.
the odd thing is, and after this, I would invite you to. They had the exchange,
Hmm.
and they split up. But the person who split up with this other gentleman does not look like this gentleman talking to Dredd.
It does get a little bit confusing.
Because
I
also
will
the other
confess.
gentleman had a more of a moustache.
Hmm. It does get a little fuzzy around the edges. You get the suspicion that maybe it was intended to be the other way around, but they changed things and then realised, oh no, we've already shot a chunk of this fight scene, or the
Yeah.
introduction to it. We haven't got time to reshoot all of it. So,
I like to think as well that this female judge purposefully allowed Anderson to get the drop on her to better boost her chances
mm,
of being seen as an innocent.
and being able to
But
get the quick draw on.
yeah, but
It,
there's a lot of, by the way, a shout out as well. Anyone who's spent any time on set knows about the art department will wash down the walls. It's like a really old technique, old as time. Wash it down with some very weak paint. Give it a nice dark grime. This film, the art department must have spent hours coating everything in dust, grime, and just yuck. And
fair
they
play
did
to
a
them
fantastic job.
because they've made peach trees feel so lived in. Every
Oh
single
yeah,
environment has just felt real in a way
yep.
that can be really hard to get across sometimes.
No, it's Lex that he talks to when they had the grimy fight.
Huh. I'll have to go back and rewatch that at some point. I must admit, it does always niggle back in my mind as well, but I've never really
I
It
wonder if
sounds weird.
that's I
I've never
wonder if
got to
that's
go
just
back
like
and look
a
at
timing, or maybe they went for two alternate versions of a scene and realized, well, hang on a second, we might as well just have them both. No one's going to notice. It's just a judge. And Lex is very charismatic. All these guys had to play off as well, wearing the mask as well. So,
it.
good
Yeah,
for them.
I mean, definitely, because it would have been so easy for them to pull the helmets off once they're revealed to be bad guys as shorthand for a bunch of wrong uns. But they didn't. They kept them in the helmets. So you did get some nice scenes of Dredd basically being mirrored by other
Yeah.
judge other judges. I just love the fact he has a kit that can patch this up.
It really does tie into the whole Predator thing, doesn't it?
Hmm.
And because the bullet went straight through, it's just like, yeah, I'm done. I'm surprised actually he didn't ask Anderson to kind of sort out his back, because I'd imagine.
That's
I
got
mean,
to
I
be a
know it's a
big old hole in.
it's a small hole, isn't it? It's got to be there. I There are so many different layers to this, and of course, there's the closest that Dredd gets to a catchphrase, because I think they really
Hmm.
avoid it here. But it's like at the beginning, "Are you ready? You don't look ready. Are you ready? You look ready."
Yeah.
But I love the way that that is said when both of them know that she has technically failed her exam.
Yes. They both know it. It's not until this point where she verbalizes it, but at no point does he say that he's failed her.
Yeah.
Uh, she's assuming at every stage that she's failed.
But because of that, that's sort of taken the shackles off, and it allows her this moment,
Hmm.
which is nice, because also she's saved him. He knows she's
Yeah.
saved him. She knows that he knows that she saved him. And she's now leaning into her powers,
Yeah.
because there's no, it's helped her, it's helping both of them. And it plays off with one of the smallest glimpses of positivity
Hmm.
in this entire film.
Well, it leans in the fact that Dredd's not indiscriminate. That's the
Yeah.
thing. It often gets confused that he is a mindless thug. That's never the case.
Mm.
At every point, he is assessing things in terms of how the law applies to them.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean he doesn't have a certain amount of flex, but he doesn't understand there are grey areas. And he understands that Anderson is a good judge. She can be a great judge. So whilst technically, yeah, losing her sidearm is a failure, end of the day, he's still the judge in charge of her assessment.
Yep.
It is purely down to him. And he knows that they don't always need judges like him. They need judges like her
Yep.
who can make the tough calls, but can also make,
The right calls.
yeah. And that's not to say that he doesn't make right calls, but he understands that he can be sometimes too much of a what's the word?
I think he's been doing it for too long. He needs a check,
Yes, yes.
basically.
That's a very good way of describing it. He knows he needs his own checks in place, and it's been
I'm
something they've explored over the years in the comics. How he has both been the check on his superiors, because Dredd never wants to be more than a street judge. He never has done. He's been offered the chief judge position multiple times over the decades, and he's turned it down every single time, and
Yeah,
then been
he's not.
called on it by those who have taken the position in his place, because they say you could have had this job, you didn't want it, so stop complaining about how I'm doing things.
By the way, is that's a judge's helmet behind her? I never realized.
Oh yeah,
So maybe that was Oh, maybe that was the prize from the judge-related gang.
Oh, that's
But
good. Yeah, because you can see the other.
yeah. I will say there's two little moments here that I like, and one that really does. It's funny enough. It's a finger up at the Arnie film. Hershey does something in the Stallone film. Hershey does something in that film, and there's this really cheesy, like, "Ooh, you're my kind of girl" kind of grin from Stallone, and it's always
Mm,
really annoyed me. It's one of the worst things he did as that character because it was so out of place. When Olivia Anderson passes Dredd and goes, right, let's just finish this sodding thing. Urban does the proper Judge Dredd version of that, which is okay, like just accepting. And then just afterwards, as they're walking to this point, as he walks round her on the corner, he taps her shoulder because they're working as a team. And it's
yeah.
like Dredd has given up a little of himself to now be on equal footing. And they're both comfy with that. And again, that's hard fought, hard earned, but they are both there. The weird thing is, though, for this finale, for a moment, Dredd is obviously focused on her, but he has briefly lost that again because
Mm,
Anderson is down. And so he is reverting to type. He is reverting to the hardest thing he can do. And that's why I walk out of this going, Dredd really needs a partner because this Dredd
mm.
is very dark. And
Oh
it is
yes.
amazing. It's amazing how close. I don't know the others if he plays it that way. And by the way, I'm sure there's a Blade Runner-esque nod to the little animal things that you see around. But this is as close to the limit as a Dread will ever get. And even as I said, comic Dread
Mm.
probably wouldn't have gone this far.
Yeah. I mean, even though Dredd had his own Peachtree story, I mean, thanks for bear in mind, Marmar and Peachtrees come from the comic.
Yep.
They weren't invented whole cloth. This take very much the film's own thing, but still drawn from what appeared in the book. But it's an odd thing because on one hand, you wonder, did Dredd know that chucking her down, because she was dying anyway, gut
Yeah.
shot with a lawgiver round, she was bleeding out. So did he figure, all right, let's take a gamble here?
Oh, bear with me. See the
Oh,
guy? See the guy?
oh yeah,
I think that's maybe a dream of him. I don't
that's
know.
supposed to.
But he would
I,
have been dead. He would have been dead. He took the long fall earlier in the film. But it always made me think maybe that was a little nod to that. Anyway, sorry, as you were.
no, I was just going to say. I mean, anyway, this is Dredd's way of hope. He's hoping to get her as far away from the detonation device as possible
Yep.
by chucking her straight down to the bottom, figuring that that'll be enough of a distance between them to stop the thing. But it's yeah, it is a very dark moment because it's probably the most comic booky moment he has in
Yeah.
a lot of ways. Because there's no subtlety to it. There's no time of the cubes. It's not in a case of he just puts a bullet through her head. He looks at, he knows what she's done, set herself up as a dead woman switch, and he just goes, "All right, out you go," which is.
Give it a go, see what it does.
But I think you're right. This film does lean more into the idea that this version of Dredd, especially at this point in his career, benefits from a partner.
Yeah.
And again, it's something they riff on from time to time. Dredd's had regular partners over the years. Both Judge Giant and Judge Giant's son
Yeah.
have been his long-term partners. He's had a rotating cast of side characters over the decades. Some last longer than others. And sometimes he does need that. It helps to have someone for the character of Dredd to play off of as well, not just to downplay his own harsher tendencies, but also for him to be contrasted against.
Yeah.
Because in most cases, Dredd's partnered with characters who are much less hardcore than he is. Although there are occasions where he finds himself partnered with much more hardcore judges than him, which is equally hilarious to see.
Speaking of which, two things. The judges that are coming into the building don't give Dredd a second notice, which is again quite telling. Just shows you how tough those individuals are. But also, the unspoken scene between the two of them in the elevator on the way down is so delicately done because she's accepting his help. It's quite, I'd say, intimate, but also it's very trusting in the fact that she knows he's literally just trying to patch her up, and he's trying to patch her up and has respect for her. And it's just a
Yeah.
lovely unspoken little moment. And then of course, yeah, you're right. She's failed herself because of something she perceived as a failing. And he's just like, yeah, we had a bit of problem here today. That's fine. Yeah, nothing, not an issue. Don't worry about it. But yeah, she was okay. And that
Yeah.
attitude as well that she's picked up from him, you
Mm.
can tell she's like, no, screw you. I'm going back on the bike. I'm just going out there. It's just like, yeah, fantastic. Dredd has created a mini Dredd, except hopefully this one who smiles a little bit more. But the weird
Hopefully.
thing is, he's now out to continue his shift.
Yeah. That's the thing. This is literally just, I mean, long old shift because he's been on duty now for the best
24
part of
hours.
24 hours. But yeah, it's just a day in the life of Judge Dredd. And I find that absolutely fascinating.
If you listen very carefully, by the way, you can hear the dripping sounds of the person who died when the door was crushing him earlier on in the film.
That's such
Is
a
it?
2000 AD moment, though.
How many things have we not? Obviously, we have a proud record of not mentioning certain things. Shout out though to the creators of Dredd before anything else in the credits. Again, small little thing, took 3 seconds, but gets dividends with the fans.
Very, very rare to see. I got back. I saw Fantastic Four on Thursday, the new one. That holds off until the end of a film for its big shout outs, but when it does have a moment, it's a hell of a moment in terms of tribute to one of the key creators and recontextualizing something which I won't spoil for anyone because it's so good. But
good. We don't need that kind of hate here. Trust me.
But yeah, John Wagner, Carlos Esquerra, two of the giants of British comic books, especially in terms of their relationship to 2000 AD. Carlos sadly no longer with us. I think Wagner's still kicking around.
Yeah, a friend of mine who I knew through the Transformers world actually did a comic with him about 2-3 years ago. So yeah, he's still doing stuff.
But both massively prolific. Such good actors. Such good creators, rather. Sorry, I was looking at the cast list as I was saying that, and my brain just did a...
Don't worry, the 15's cast and 300 stunt players. It's a shame that this film obviously didn't hit at the box office, although it was well respected, which is a sort of a nice kind of commiseration award. It also did well on home media, but it wasn't the juggernaut. It had some. I can see concept artist Jock, whose Jock is one of those concept artists that's quite famous in this part of media. But yeah, it never ever did quite as well as it should have done. And this is another thing as well. People wondering at the moment as well about Taika doing this. Well, the reason you're hearing about this is because Taika's interested. It's the director that's allowing this to happen. So I can't believe they got a cable basher listed. I cannot believe I just seen that. I'm just gonna message a sound guy I know and go, do you realize they actually had listed a cable basher? That's ridiculous. Also, lighting gaffer. Interesting. But yeah, just the fact that if he's interested, if he wants to take it seriously, he'll want to play to the fans anyway. They are going to, I think they will try and aim for a cross between this film and the Stallone film, which we will cover,
Yeah.
by the way, at some point. We
Oh,
absolutely have to.
absolutely. I can't wait to tackle that one at some point. To be fair.
But there's a lot of things with this that went well. It has a good reputation. It's grown over the years, but it's never been the big blockbuster movie. And unfortunately, does need a big director to come in and provide it with the
Yeah.
shine to get another project running. So it's just hoping that that guy isn't going to turn it as a vanity project. But I mean, seriously, do you seriously think, D, that a Hollywood director who is known for, yes, a little bit more silly outlook on stuff, do you think he'd really want to take Dredd and make it silly? Do you think that could ever actually do well, or would that just be a hiding to nothing for all involved?
The thing is, the world of Dredd has a lot of absurdity to it anyway.
Absolutely.
If you can pull out so many, you could just pull a random issue of Judge Dredd, a random Dredd story from a single issue of 2000 AD and find something in there likely to be completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, you have fatties, you have simps, you have the Wally Squad, you have all the other mega cities across the world. Because that's the other thing.
Yeah,
They're not lim-
Britsit.
There's Britsit, there's Hondo City.
What's the Texan one?
I
Not Tex-Mex. No, it can't be. That would
think
be
it's
too
Big
cheesy.
Tex,
Oh, thank you.
or Lone Star, something like that. There's Mega City 2, which is on the
Yep.
West Coast. You've got them. And that's the other thing. Judge Dredd is not an Earthbound series. There are colonies on the moon.
Yep.
They send corrupt judges to Titan, to the mines there. They have interstellar space travel. I mean, one of the things that gets a bit lost is that when you talk about 2000 AD characters, Judge Dredd, Strontium Dog,
Yeah.
Rogue Trooper, the ABC Warriors,
Yeah.
Nemesis for Warlock, all of these characters are in the same universe. They're just at different points along the timeline. Everything in meshes together at some point. The ABC Warriors were invented for the war that the judges ended. Nemesis for Warlock fights against the Terran regime far in the future. Johnny Alpha and the Strontium Dogs they're mutants caused by strontium fallout. That's why they're called Strontium Dogs. It's
Yeah.
technically the SD is Search Destroy agents, but Strontium Dog, dear. Hell, from Strontium Dog, you have Durham Red. Her story goes probably further into the future than anyone else's because she's functionally immortal. But so many of the characters of 2000 AD do exist on this single timeline, effectively. Or if not a singular timeline, they're in the same pockets of reality. So they do interact from time to time. And it's kind of fascinating as well because there are so many bonkers ideas at play. It's to say that having someone from like Taika come in who he has made his name with more absurdist fare, but when he's on his game, he's also a writer and a director with a very nuanced eye.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't make something like Jojo Rabbit, which gets extremely dark, whilst also being incredibly absurd if you don't grasp that.
Absolutely.
So I'm actually kind of in, because I think a lot of people's worry is because of Thor: Love and Thunder, which I hate to say it, he and a lot of the cast didn't do themselves any favors in the marketing for that film. when they
No,
ragged on the quality of the special effects.
yeah,
That 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 was that that
that
was
was bad. There was, but also as well, the fact that they'd set up the special effects to look a certain way. And the thing is, you make stuff in a bubble. Also, there are a
yeah.
lot of people, other people. It's a Marvel film.
Hmm,
The director has a percentage of influence in a Marvel film. A lot of the other actors, the talent, the producers, and of course the Marvel machine has a lot of say in it too. And remember, because some films had been successful, i.e., the third Thor film, everyone
yeah.
was like, "Oh, let's have too much more of that, please." It
Yeah.
happens.
True.
It's just,
Very
it's
true.
just this. I think also as well. It's not just him. He's working with a writer, but the
Yeah.
fact
Yeah.
is they're going to approach Dredd. He is going to, even he in his bubble of success. The moment he steps out, he meets anyone who knows anything about Dredd. Dredd fans are not going to be shy or quiet when it comes to telling him exactly what they want and what they don't want. If it means a
Yeah.
slightly campier Dredd or Dark Judges, if they go that route, fine,
Mm,
but keep him as the straight guy. And the thing is as well that Taika's films, they do rely a lot of the jokes rely on one of the characters being a straight guy, the others
yeah.
being
Yeah.
the comedy. So Thor is the comedic character, Jane Foster is the straight one. So it's not too difficult to imagine Dredd as sane and calm, admittedly almost to the point of being a psycho in his own right, whilst
Yeah.
chaos
Yeah.
is going on around him.
That's all very true. I mean, I'm tentatively intrigued to see how it goes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're really going to have to see how Duncan Jones' Rogue Trooper does. Because that's due next year, I think. Is that right?
I think so. Who's the is that the animated one
Yeah, for one that's
that has been slowly, very slowly come together? It's almost the speed of Astartes
hmm,
in its development. But
it's been a bit of a slow grow, but I mean, I do quite like almost everything that Duncan Jones has done
yep.
in some form or other. Even Warcraft has its positive element, and I think it's a pretty damn impressive achievement that he even got the damn thing made. To be fair,
Yeah, and then it went on to make it didn't make much at the US initially or the European, but then it cleaned up at the Chinese box
oh
office.
yeah,
And everyone was like, well, okay, then I suppose it's a hit now.
yeah, it kind of succeeded in spite of what would be the
Yeah.
traditionally areas it should have done well in. But Rogue Trooper is a character it is the 2000E character I have the most fondness for. It's one I first collected any stories of really
Mm.
that I really latched onto. Uh, so I'm quite looking forward to seeing how it pans out. To be fair, I'm intrigued by what we're seeing, and yeah, fingers crossed. That could mean good things for Dredd and hopefully other characters from the 2000 AD portfolio, because there's a lot of really good characters in there to play around with.
I think the only thing I'm slightly worried about is that there is a little bit of cross contamination between 40k and 2000 AD. Naturally, there is. Of course,
Hmm.
they're from the same environment. They have a lot of
Yeah,
cross influences over the years. So I'm just hoping that if Dread was to come out, and if they were trying to, as most studios do a couple of films, that
hmm.
it wasn't thrown too much by 40k and Games Workshop's own cinematic aspirations, and that the two didn't get
Hmm.
at all muddled. But I don't think it will be the case. I think
Yeah,
if they come out with some good solid standalone movies for each, then it will just benefit both sets of fans.
I think so. I mean, I think there's space for both to exist because I can. Dread has his own very. I'd be more worried if the 40k projects GW are working on with Amazon if we found out they were going to focus on VR biteys, then I'd think, oh no, this can't end well. But I don't think they will. I
No,
think
no.
now we've had our dose of R bites in the video game world and in miniature form. I think DJI are probably happy with where they have them, that they
Yep.
don't need. I could easily see in a 40K production we may see an Arbites turn up, especially if it's a show that avoids focusing on space marines and goes much
A,
more human.
a background character.
Yeah, or if they choose to take inspiration from some of the Inquisitor books, there's an Arbites character in the Eisenhorn trilogy who's quite prominent, but he's a singular character in his own right. He doesn't dress in his full gear very often, and he's a bit of a different archetype to Dredd. He's not quite the same vibe.
Cool.
So that I could still see working if they were to do that alongside Dredd, to be fair. But it is interesting how Dredd and this particular brand of, I mean, at the time, Dredd and 2000D as a whole, people tend to forget that it was a real shot in the arm when it launched.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, it is probably one of the original punk comic books in the truest sense, in that it's British to its core, and the stories as well are just, they never hold back.
No,
If
they resent. They resent. It's weird. They through Dread, you end up resenting authority, even though he is an authority figure. So it plays on that. It also lampoons politicians and people in higher authority, left, right, and center. Anyone who believes themselves to have that moral high ground is usually taken down a peg or two.
yeah,
The only thing in the Stallone film that really rang true was, the off-scene Dredd blows up a car because the guy wouldn't move out of a car parking space. That is, it's
yeah,
the sort of arrogance and excess that you still see in elements of the comic Dredd. It's also the sort of thing that the character of Dredd hates, and the comic hates it, lampoons it, and it takes it down. And very rarely do you end up trusting those in power, and they're often corrupted. That's just the very DNA of Dredd, is that it's got all of this wrapped up in it. And the loveliest thing is that take any writer, give them that property, give them that world, then try and get them to write something that changes that, and they will really struggle, because it is literally, I mean, they called it DNA Films, the company that made this. Dredd's DNA is on show for everyone to see, and it would take so much to try and change that. And if you changed it, it just wouldn't be Dredd anymore. It would be a remake of Demolition Man.
yeah, absolutely. And the other thing, Dredd has been a showcase book for so many great writers and artists who have come in and just kind of launched themselves off of it. Been a real
Oh yeah,
springboard to greater things for so many people. Oh, excuse me.
that's okay.
And it's just going to be nice if we can see more of them get credit. Well, I mean, we saw Wagner and Esquerra get their justly deserved tribute,
Yeah.
but I look forward to seeing what they do with the this new project, because there's so much material they can choose to draw on. They may go for something original, which is fine, but there's possibilities which are endless. And like I say, there have been some great artists and writers who have put their stamp on Dredd over, but I'd love to see them be given a shot, or just have their material adapted to bring it to a wider audience.
I think that's the beautiful thing. If a Dredd film can land, and at least do well, then you have a plethora of stories to choose from. The challenge
Yeah.
is just making sure you choose the right ones, the right casting, and that you don't overexploit. You don't go the Marvel route of just you end up, you start off being authentic, you start off being innovative, you start off using stories in the way that they should have been, and then give it a decade and you're suddenly butchering 3 or 4 stories together for no use and damaging characters, and Age of Ultron is like a weekend, and stuff doesn't
Yeah.
work. um a lot depends as well on the IP holder and how much they fight for the right for their films to be their way. And in that sense, I really hope that they do have a word with GW and go, right, how do we make sure that Hollywood does not bastardize this movie? And that is something I would love to see. GW going, just keep true, don't sell out. And for God's sake, if an actor starts to take his helmet off, shoot him.
Yeah.
And on that strangely violent but also pessimistic vote for the future, I think we should call it a day.
That sounds like a plan. This has been another cracker, I think.
I
I've
think it's
thoroughly
been
enjoyed that.
fantastic. Now, where can the wonderful folk at large see you on the internets?
Oh, I am
Legally speaking, of course.
well, I am on all the socials as David Kelly. Look either for this charming visage as drawn by Mr. A.D. Nicol, aka Mr. Gruff himself, or a picture of Cup. It's one or the other. And I appear from time to time on the Moonbase 2 podcast with the Decayed Andy. He's got me on tap to go through various toy lines at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not this weekend because there's been some big news.
Yep.
But we're currently working through the Movieverse toy lines, which is traumatic in some places. Otherwise, alongside this podcast, also on the Fluff and Hammer, I appear on the Deeper Dives alongside Mr. Gruff, aka Adam Nicol, where we find an article from the Fluff and Hammer and we go off on a tangent. Probably that's how that goes.
It's like most of our channel.
Pretty much. They've tried to blame me. I told them they know what they were getting in for.
Frankly, I've listened to too many Fluff and Hammer podcasts. I know exactly who's to blame for this one. So if there is a tangent, Mr. Nicol will take it.
Fair, very fair. And yourself, mate, where can folks find you?
Well, I would just say just here, but there are some things afoot with the Fluffenbusters. I don't know if by the time you see this, things will be a little different for us, but you'll certainly see a lot more, I think, of us on the interwebs. Apart from that, I do have a second channel. It's called Subprime Showcase. I'm still very new to it. I started a project on Johnny Mnemonic 6-7 months ago, and it took a break due to life, new job, jury duty, and a lot of these projects. But I am at the moment now returned to it, so hopefully I'll be putting out some new stuff. So hopefully, maybe a couple of recordings time, I'll actually be able to recommend a up-to-date new video, which would be exciting for everyone. But yeah, that's it for me.
I mean, I recommend folks go and watch your first part of Johnny Mnemonic because it's pretty damn good, to be honest. And I eagerly anticipate part 2. So
it's the classic example of be careful what you wish for. I wished to do something really in depth and specific, and my goodness, is it taking the time to do something in depth and specific? But that's always the way. I will say one more thing as well to anyone who's listened. Now, this is the beautiful thing as well. I now know that people are listening to these shows. And although you might be like, well, of course people listen to it. No, I mean people are listening to the whole thing, which is frankly shocking to me. But if you are out there, person, listening to this whole thing, and you have an idea for a film that you would like us to cover, or if you're feeling confident, you want to jump on with one of us and actually have a natter, have this sort of conversation through, then drop us a bell. Let's do this.
hell yeah.
because we started out and it was to focus on stuff that was heavily influenced by 40k, real 40k films. And then it's became stuff that's kind of influenced by 40k or in the same ballpark as 40k, or might be near a 40k model, or might have been referenced on the same day that you referenced 40k. You know, the links are getting lighter as we start to take more on board. But also, we're finding a lot of enjoyment in having these conversations. And if you're enjoying listening to them and you want to get involved, then just drop us a line.
Absolutely. Always happy to take advice, take recommendations, and like you say, anyone who wants to come on as well. So, yeah.
Good stuff.
On which note, if you're still listening, thank you oh so much for sticking around.
Seriously, thank you.
We'll be back in the future. Enjoy the rest of your day and have a good one. Bye-bye.
Take care, folks. Bye.